how did you invent a new word? What was the process around that?
Step 1, you choose one of your cards.
Yeah.
Step 2,
yes.
You figure out which aspect you think fits that kind of word.
Yeah.
So that's the 2 things you do on yourself. And then
when
unless you
are
have
you allowed to do that? When are you allowed to do that in the first place?
Everybody takes one turn during one age. So you and Nathan aren't allowed to do it today. There is an exception. I'll come to that. Okay? So everybody else, that's Max, me, and Ola, will have the chance to do the full turn. And that means you choose a card, you make a connection as solid as you possibly can with one of the aspects. If you have a really brilliant idea for a new word that you want to have in play, you can't just say, I want this to be my word. But normally we would discuss what kind of word we want and what it should be. And there was one extra rule, because we have this thieves' cant thing, we should try to find words that actually aren't very obviously something funny. They should be something that is kind of, how to say, languages.
I think words that are hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, kind of. Thank you. So, and then you're going to, then the one whose turn it is going to decide which is the perfect word of all the suggestions we make. So they say, okay, this is it. I want this one. And then that person says whom they want in the scene in which this word should be the main actor.
Yes. All right.
And you don't have to be in that scene yourself. You can, but you don't have to. And then those who are in the scene are going to set up the scene, deciding where they are and what they are doing there. And then we should hopefully be able to launch into a conversation a little bit easier this time around, because now we have seen a little bit how it works. I can tell you and Nathan, if you want to come up, or if you want one way for you to get into play during this age is to come up with a variation or variant. That would mean you could pick one word we already built and kind of do something with it. Make an opposite or make a verb of a noun or something like that.
But we could also be in scenes just because people put us in them.
Yeah,
right?
you can be in scenes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you want to make up a word, the variant would be the only way.
Okay.
And you can do it whenever you find it fitting. So if the thing that happens then is you will pick one of your cards and discard it and draw a new one, but you don't have to set up a own scene or something like that. You're just going to pick your word in that case.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody who wants to go first? Otherwise, I can.
I was thinking we were talking about my card, friend, last time. If we should try to build on that again. What we, I had a different. Last time I think I was more about function than the word itself. So I'm going to be going back on that a little bit. What we last time, people were more. They preferred using the friend term in music hall, since we were meeting people there, and that since we are, it's our safe place. So should we keep on going to that, or do we want it to be connected to something else? or the other omens.
Could you read
Do
the
you
card
want to
again?
discuss that?
Okay, I
If
can
you read the
card.
card again, it would be a lot easier to understand that.
Okay. Friend. This type of friendship is unique to the isolation. A bond that comes from a shared activity or a particular way we regard one another. A revelation among friends.
So if I understand correctly, you are suggesting, I think it's up to you to decide what aspect it is. So are you
Yeah.
deciding that the music hall is the right aspect? Max, is that your choice?
I was open, but I'm open for a discussion. But last time it seems
I think this part's not
seemed...
for discussion. I think you have to say.
No, it's not really. I mean, if you are completely lost and don't know, but otherwise, I'd say it's your call.
Yeah, but I really didn't. Yeah. Now we can take it to the music hall. So.
Okay, we do that.
Yeah. An idea, but what were you saying last time? We had to find a specific word, because we were talking last time. We were talking about because our group's name is named the Trousers. We were going to connect this friendship with with clothing. So depending on what clothing you talked to specific people, meant you had a greater friendship. For example, Ron and I had shoes. We know each other. We not so much. Trousers, maybe it's the gang. If we both say we have ties, well, then we're real close friends, and so on and so forth. But you were specifically saying we have to have a word, or at least something,
Let's do
word.
one word with one concept and not try to make it this big flexible vocabulary.
I mean, basically, we need one word that really means friend. And then if you want to have other words with slightly different meanings, you could make up them as a variation later in play. But for now, it's really friend. And if it should be connected to the music hall, but you still want clothing, I think we should discuss a little bit more how and why the word would be connected to the music hall aspect. In which way?
Someone explained to me that the bond that comes from a shared activity or a particular way we regard one another. But what could that be? A shared activity? I mean, just an example that is connected to friend is because it has to mean friend, and it has and a bond that comes from a shared activity. So
it's a very it's stated in a very abstract way because it needs to relate to any. I mean, these cards are used for any game of dialect, so it's vague because of that. But we have to adapt that to our particular setting. So the activities, turn it around. Think of activities that make people friends.
That's my thought.
So what kind of activities would we do that's not just being part of the isolation, but being friends inside it? We're not all friends.
No.
It's not a term just for the trousers. It's a term for your friendships in it.
No.
So what kinds of, and if the shared activities just seems too vague to you, ignore it. Just think of what a word for friend and just leave it there.
Trust, maybe. Somebody you really trust. Not only as a colleague, but as a friend.
I wouldn't mind just getting away from the whole clothing thing. Let's make this its own word with its own slang history and just start from scratch and just enjoy what strange and innocent seeming thing would we call our friends. Nathan, do you have any ideas?
Not really. That's the problem is if we don't really figure out what does it mean to be friends or this kind of friends? I don't see how we can figure out a word.
Sure. So what
Yeah.
would a friend in this
I
isolation
haven't-
look like? I mean, what would we see them doing, or why would they become friends? What does that mean to them?
I think a very, very common, I just realized, because this shared activity, a very cultured common thing is to share food with each other. That's like a way to, that's what you do with friends, you share food. It could be connected to food. That's, I mean, but what I'm trying to grasp here also, since we are thieves, we don't want people to know who is my friend.
Right.
That's kind of the
That's the idea. Yeah.
So that's why we use this like kind of code.
Maybe it would work if I asked Nathan, if I asked you this. If we were looking at Jakob being himself, and I know he's a mysterious magician, and I know he's in the shadows, and I know he goes nowhere, cares about nothing, is always doing his own thing. Fine. Just make up a freaking friend for him and tell us what that friendship is like. What is that friendship like? What would make him have a friend, be a friend with someone in the isolation? Danger? What?
For me, the friendship thing should be related to the obligation we have with each other. So if we decide to go with the musical, I have no idea. It just does not really make sense to me, or not to me, but the way I think about it. It doesn't make sense to get the musical. So starting from here, I don't know. I really have no idea what to make.
Okay, that's a good sign for us. Maybe that's a good sign for us. Maybe that's a good time to say we really do need to go. I mean, Max was ambiguous about the music hall to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we pushed him into the music hall too hard.
Oh yeah, I'm curious. Okay, I know when I try to say the word you said means I wasn't so into it, right? I'm ambiguous. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted it more, but I think I was more. I was more wanted to do. What I wanted was more to connect it to work.
Okay.
So, for example, the best work is when no one knows it's happened. And then I thought, okay, two people that really can trust each other when they do work, or really knows that they will go 100% for each other. So that was what I wanted to connect it to, and make it more of a functional word, so I can, for example. But
wait. Let's stop. Let's stop there. I mean, what you said right there. If you put punkt, right there, punkt, it's perfect. It's beautiful. So I think. So then the question is, if they do work together, and then they become real friends. So these aren't fake friends or workplace friends. These are like, this is a word. If you read the description, it's about real friends. They have a revelation of friendship together, right? You mean it. There's no faking to them. They might be faking out the world, but you're not faking with each other. So in the situation with the best work, is the when no one knows it happens, all of our little, invisible activities, it seems like it's somebody that you did it with and underwent risks with, right? I mean, you've been with them. You know that you can trust them. They could have done you in. They could have betrayed you. They could have ignored you. They could have abandoned you. It would have been safer maybe, but they didn't. So now you're friends. Does that make sense, Nathan? Does that make more sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Excellent. So I'm done. I'm done with my contribution, and you guys come up with a word.